Michael, welcome to the 20-something podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So Michael Burton is an Irish ultra endurance athlete and online coach helping people get physically and mentally fit. Michael has completed 4 marathons, 2 Ironmans, and his biggest challenge so far, 32 70.3 Ironmans in 32 days across 32 counties in Ireland. And I say so far because I know there's so much more to come for Michael. I first came across Michael on social media when I saw him sharing how he navigates life through ups and downs in a really authentic and relatable way. His journey is really inspiring and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So thank you so much for coming on, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me. That was
How
a
are
lovely
you
intro.
doing?
I'm good.
Good. So in the spirit of the 20-something podcast, could we just start by you giving an overview of your 20s?
Yeah. My 20s has been a period of probably 2 halves.
Mm-hmm.
So from kind of like 20 to 24 was pretty dire and pretty bleak. And then from 24 to now 28 going on 29 has been kind of like an upwards trend of growth from the bottom of the barrel to probably like glass halfway full now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting. It's been a learning curve. I think for me personally, I think for a lot of young men, it takes them till they're 24, 25 to realize, 1, I'm not invincible. 2, I need a routine because otherwise I crumble. And 3, I should probably start figuring out who I am, what I stand for, and where I'm trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Amazing. So taking us back a little bit before your 20s.
Yeah.
I know your story a bit from just following you on social media and things. So kind of talk us through how you said you had 2 halves of your 20s.
Yeah.
Tell us how you got to that, I guess, that first half of getting you to that point.
So similar to that, I probably had 2 halves of my life before my 20s as well. Right. So from kind of from being born to being 10 years old, everything was pretty good. You know, everything was really good. I did lose my granddad at 8, and that was kind of difficult. I grew up in that household because my mum and dad separated, so like he was my father figure. And that was difficult, right? But it was what happened from like 10 to 12 that really kind of changed the direction of where I was kind of heading in life, I would say. And yeah, so my biological dad up and like kind of left the country. He was supposed to pick me up from school one day, never arrived. Found out months later he was gone. And then my stepdad's parents died in a car crash coming back from Ireland after spending the summer there. And just like that, they were gone, and he kind of suffered with the grief of that. And that meant our relationship broke down. And then I went through my teens kind of resenting him for how he chose to spend his time and not spending time with all of us. And then I just built up that whole anger about my dad and the situation that I was in. And that kind of led me down the path from being very active and using exercise as my escape and how I deal with things and my emotions, to using drugs and alcohol. And then by the time I was kind of 19, I kind of stopped playing sport at 17, but by the time I was 19, I was probably in the darkest place ever, and I tried to take my life on a few different occasions. And then shortly after, you know, those incidents, just a few months after that, I was rushed to hospital with an internal bleed, probably, well, more than likely due to the amount of painkillers and like drugs I was using at the time. And I spent 2 months in hospital. I spent about 3 weeks in ICU just fighting for my life. Came out, and you would think that would have, you know, sorted me out and I'd cop on. Nope. I went on a bender, ended up back in hospital for another month, went into railing, spent the next 5 years in that same kind of rut of not knowing who I was and looking for answers in completely the wrong places. And that brings me up to about 23, 24 years old, and COVID hits.
Okay, I was going to say, so what was that change then when you got to 23? And also, thank you for sharing that as well.
Yeah. COVID, I think, was so helpful to people who might have been actually in a bad place when it happened,
Hmm.
and so detrimental to people who were in a good place when it happened.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, I was in the worst place. I remember COVID happened a little bit after the Six Nations, and I went out to watch a match with my pals in London. I was living in London at the time, and I just had a complete breakdown. Um, and then the next day, I was sat in my bed eating crackers and hummus, watching normal people, and I was just like, Michael, you gotta sort this out. Like, there's nobody in this household, nobody's coming to save you. You have to figure out what is going on.
Hmm.
2 days after that, I was nominated to run a 5K, and that was that. And
The whole
just,
COVID nominate five,
yeah,
run five.
nominate
Yeah.
5, run 5. Went out, could barely do 2K. My pals and I started just doing like, 3 or 4 5Ks a week, but we were like trying to beat each other's times, and then 5Ks turned into 10Ks. I moved back home for a multitude of different reasons. I moved back home to help out with my sister. She wasn't very well at the time, and I wanted to help out my mum.
Hmm.
And I was just kind of sinking in London still, even though I was kind of getting fit and stuff like that. I was just
Yeah.
kind of, I still didn't feel great. I didn't like the job I was doing. So I moved back home, and then they actually made me redundant. So I was like, this is kind of all worked out really
Yeah.
well. Um, and yeah, got into nature in the Wicklow Mountains, and just kind of, it was just a snowball effect from literally starting running
Hmm.
to what transpired. I got back home, didn't have a car, so I cycled,
Hmm.
lived close to the sea, so I started sea swimming. I was like, oh, I'll do a triathlon. I said before I wanted to do an Ironman,
Yeah.
signed up for an Ironman,
Yeah.
did an Ironman. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I can do this. Like, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was just literally, that was it. It's just running kind of just gave me the confidence and the self-worth to be like, you can actually do something. Just, you need to just figure out what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah. So would you say COVID then was like the defining moment in your 20s that kind of changed everything? Or is there like another
I th-
moment you can pinpoint
I
of?
think that moment, sat in the bed eating hummus and crackers and just being like, nobody can do this for you.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe it's quite like a liberating feeling when you get to that stage where you're just like, this is it. Do you know what I mean? You can
Hmm.
continue down this path of self sabotage and ruining yourself and hurting the people around you by the way you behave and the way you act, or you can figure out a way to sort your shit out.
Hmm.
Um, because this isn't the person that you want to be, and this isn't the person that you, yeah, pretty much, yeah, this isn't the person that you want to be, and you just got to figure out what does that person look like and how are you going to get there.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. And that's kind of why I wanted to start this podcast, to be honest, just to share different stories of people that have either gone through their 20s or are still in their 20s, and
Mm,
that defining moment, and just to show that you can be on a path that might not be right for you, but there's always something that you can do to change it, and it's
mm,
never too late to change it. Even if you're past your 20s and you're
yeah.
listening to this, or you're not in your 20s yet, there's always something that you can do, and it's just kind of finding that strength, I guess, in yourself to push forward.
Another thing on that is, I think so many people just want things to happen like tomorrow,
Yeah.
and they also want to do everything all at
Yeah.
once. It's like I work with people as a coach, and just even like pals that want to do things. It's like, okay, I'm starting on Monday, and I'm going to be eating 2,000 calories, and I'm going to
Hmm.
go to the gym 7 times this week. I'm also going to run 40K and do 7 cycles. And it's just like, chill out. Like,
Yeah.
maybe just go to the gym twice
Hmm.
and go for a walk and do a couple of runs, and like slowly build. And that's kind of how it happened with my
Hmm.
running, which is that, like, I ran with my pals, and my pals didn't want to run every day.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, okay, well, we did 2 runs this week, and next week we do 3, and it was
Yeah.
just like really like baby steps.
Yeah.
And then from the running came the cycling, and the cycling came the swimming, and then it just kind of really was
Hmm.
like gradual, gradual, gradual.
Hmm.
Whereas every time before, I just went like all in for like 2 weeks, and then, you know, felt great, and then would just go on a bender for 2 weeks. And it was just like that vicious circle of
Yeah.
never really getting out of it.
Yeah, exactly. You can almost go backwards in a way if you try to make this like mammoth change. It
Yeah,
is so about those small steps and those
yeah,
little things every day that you put into place.
yeah.
So how did you go from that then? I know you said you got into your cycling and your swimming and your running, but how did you go from that to then doing your epic challenge? And also for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what that challenge is, your 32
Yeah.
challenge, can you explain to us a little bit more about it?
So as all good ideas come, they came after a long sea swim and a cup of
Okay.
coffee. No, a pal of mine, Alan, was like, "Wouldn't it be really cool if you did an Ironman or a half Ironman in every county of Ireland?"
Hmm.
And I was like, "Sure, how would you do that? Like, it would take you years for
Yeah.
starters, and you wouldn't be able to get the time off, yada yada yada." And then it just was stuck in my head because I was looking for something to do. I really wanted to do something for mental health. I
Hmm.
really wanted to do something to show people, you know, 2 years ago I was fat, I smoked, I drank like a fish, I was so unhealthy. I really wanted to show people that they could do it, like that they could turn it
Yeah.
around. They could do something
Hmm.
that people thought was a bit nuts.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think I got from the Ironman what I wanted to get from it. So I did my
Right.
first Ironman, and I really expected to like cross the finish line and like have this wave of emotion because I really had to go through something. And honestly, it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
And I was like, this is a big disappointment. I didn't find anything out about myself that I
Hmm.
didn't already know.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably because I found out what I needed to know during the training
Yeah.
for the Ironman. In retrospect, okay,
Hmm.
the training bit is the really hard bit. The day is actually grand. It's fine. Well, it's not grand, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
I was gonna say it's still an Ironman.
Yeah. Like you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um, and I was looking for something else after that because I just wanted to do something. I wanted to show people that it could be done.
Hmm.
And that idea just landed in my head, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to do this." That was September time. I was like, "I'm going to do it in a year's time." So I was like, "I'll give myself a year." I got to January of 2020. I got to January of 2022, end of
Hmm.
2021, and I like sacked in my job, and I was like, "I'm going to go all in on this
Hmm.
because I really want to make it happen. I really want to do it." And yeah, so it was 32 70.3 Ironmans in 32 counties in 32 days.
Wow.
And it was the best month of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible.
And how do you physically do that? Were you like driving around Ireland or?
Yeah, I have to give a big shout out to, as my nana calls her, Saint Emily, my girlfriend. We'd actually only been going out about 3 months, so
Yeah.
they talk about a baptism of fire.
Hmm.
It was me, Emily, and Ellie the Ford Fiesta,
Hmm.
and a bike on the back of my car, and we drove the whole way around. There was no physio, there was no support team,
Yeah.
there was no camera crew, it was just me, her, and a bicycle and a car, and that was it.
Wow.
It was insane.
That's incredible.
It was class.
Yeah. And is there like, obviously doing it for yourself, but is there like a stronger why underlying kind of all of these achievements?
Um, I think I just wanted to make the people around me proud because I'd been such a fuck up.
Hmm.
I think that was it. I think a lot of the struggle that I had comes from grief, that losing loads of people at a young age. Um, and I just wanted to make people proud. I'd gone back to college and I finished college after dropping out to for my mum, not for me. I had
Yeah.
no interest in doing it, really, to be completely
Yeah.
honest. But I worked my ass off to do it because that's what she wanted. She really wanted it, and I really wanted to make her proud. And then, yeah, I think also I really wanted to highlight mental health and how you can really just turn it around in a matter of months, really. Like my life
Hmm.
turned around in the space of 6 months.
Yeah.
And it wasn't perfect, like I wasn't fixed.
Yeah, of course.
But the difference between the beginning of COVID and 6 months later, I was a completely different person.
Hmm.
I was 20 kilos down. I was running 4 times a week. I was swimming. I was cycling. My overall well-being had gone. I was drinking very little.
Yeah.
I was still binge drinking, but I was drinking very little.
Yeah.
I cut out drugs for the most part
Hmm.
across all things. Like it was at that time, And it's just been a gradual process throughout the whole thing of
No,
that.
I think that's so amazing, and that's why I really wanted to get you on here, because I think you're such like a shining example, as you say, of how you can change that in 6 months, and it's not going to be perfect. And I'm sure past that time, even today, there's probably still things that you're
Still not
working through.
perfect.
Exactly, I don't think anyone ever is.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you're such an amazing example of that, and I think you should be really proud of doing that.
yeah. Thank you. Um, yeah, it's an enjoyable experience, and I think the biggest thing that I've taken out of it is that I'm so happy in myself now to make the decisions that I make. I just won't do things if it doesn't fill my cup.
Yeah.
I won't have a drink if I don't feel like this year I said I wanted to go without drinking,
Yeah.
and I was like, after a while I was like, okay, I know I cannot drink. I did 9 months last year. I know I cannot drink if I don't want to. I'm
Yeah.
comfortable in myself not to do it.
Yeah.
And then I was on the side of a ski slope, and I was like, Joe, like, right now I would love a beer.
Yeah.
And I had one beer, and that's okay. And it's like being happy enough in yourself to make those decisions as to when and what you want. Is probably in the spot that I'm at now, which is great.
No, I think that's amazing. It's something I'm kind of working through at the moment as well. I've not drank for a couple of months. The last 2 years, really, I've completely changed my relationship. But the last
Yeah.
few months, I haven't drank altogether. And I'm in that place as well where it's like, I could have a glass of wine here and there. Do I want to? Should I? But
Yeah.
also, it's absolutely fine too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's nice to hear that you're kind of in that space.
Yeah, I just like I was, and people ask me all the time, like, "Oh, you don't drink anymore," and it is easier to say to people that you don't drink,
Yeah.
because they get offended if you do drink and you're not drinking with them, right?
Yeah.
Because that's part of our culture. Everybody
You got to
drinks.
have fun.
You gotta have fun,
Yeah.
and you gotta drink to have
Yeah.
fun. But yeah, like I just feel if I'm in the south of France or I'm in Italy and I'm having a bowl of pasta,
Yeah.
I want to have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be people don't have to be on the extremes of everything. You don't have to start running and then do a marathon.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can just do park run, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to give up drink for the most part and never drink again. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
I think people should kind of look at that and go, and fair enough, like people shouldn't drink. Some people just shouldn't drink, and that's
Yeah.
also
Completely.
totally fine. But I suppose you got to find where you're at.
Yeah, completely. And with that and all of your challenges and training and things, I wanted to ask you about motivation. I feel like motivation is quite a big topic sometimes, and people might look at you and think, wow, Michael's got so much motivation. He's done all of these incredible things. But we're human, right? And I can imagine that you don't wake up every single day jumping out of bed. I'm so motivated this morning. How do you kind of work through that when you are training for something that's so huge? Or maybe you do jump out of bed every morning.
Nah, motivation's bullshit, to be completely honest. And like then you go, oh, discipline, and it is discipline, right?
Yeah.
But it's also like changing how you look at the things that you do. So instead of I have to do,
Yeah.
I get to do. When you fail, it's not I failed, it's not yet. That's a good one. I really like that. I came across that recently, which is that, okay, you haven't got to where you want to. That doesn't make it a failure.
Yeah.
You just haven't got there yet.
Yeah. You don't fail until you stop doing
You don't
something.
fail until you stop it. And I think that's where I'm at with it. And I also look at it from a sense of that I'm not doing it for me. So when you're doing it for a bigger cause, it becomes an act of service, and then it's a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
Like most people will do things for other people before they'll do it for themselves. So if you're doing something for a bigger cause, it kind of just negates it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and does that kind of keep you going as well when you're actually in the challenges? Because I can imagine, especially when you were driving to all different counties and I'm sure you had blisters and all of these things going on with your body. When you're in that, how do you mentally get through that challenge when you're day after day putting your body through that?
It's a very good question. Very, very good question. No one's asked me that really before. I had a few different mantras, right? Which
Right.
was go one more and this too shall pass. And I think I just, you know, consistently just said, you're not doing this for you. You're not doing this for
Mhm.
you. Do you know what I mean? It's not,
Mhm.
this isn't about you,
Yeah.
nearly in a sense. Um, but I also think, weirdly enough, that, and this might sound really ridiculous, but I didn't feel like it was that challenging in the time.
Okay.
Weirdly, I was
Yeah.
just like, this isn't, I enjoy this. Like, I was
Yeah.
having fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was tough. Like my knee was blown up and my feet were sore, and I was tired and fatigued, but I loved it.
Mhm.
I really loved
Mhm.
it. Like it was the best month of my life.
Yeah. You
Uh,
found that thing that
yeah,
just.
I found that thing that just lit me up, and
Yeah.
I remember just cycling different, like around different parts of the country, especially on the cycles,
Mhm.
or swimming in different spots, or running in different places, like down around places that I've never been before, and just be
Mhm.
like, God, this country's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I would never have got to see it if I hadn't have done
Yeah.
this. I
Yeah.
would have never have met the people that I met without
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah. I don't know if that answered your
No,
question.
that does. I think that's a great answer. Like, I think it goes back to your point of you don't have to do this, you get to do it.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, like, I've been to Ireland quite a few times myself, and it is so beautiful. And I can imagine just running through the mountains or different places and just
Mm,
taking that all in to just be like, wow. And I think that's
yeah.
just like a testament to your outlook, really, that you could be putting your body through that so much physically, and that's what your mind's going through. So I
Yeah.
think that's a really great answer.
Yeah. Like I went, even recently, I drove my pals around while they were doing a tour of the UK with their
Hmm.
band. And we stopped in this tiny little village called Swanton Morley. And I went on a 32K run, and it was unreal.
Yeah.
It was so nice. Like I was
Yeah.
just running on this trail. And I was just like, this is hard, but I love it.
It's beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
I get so much from being out in nature.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much of an impact it had on me growing up
Mhm.
and me getting better when I moved back to Ireland.
Mhm.
Then in the last couple of months when I reflected on it,
Mhm.
I was like, hold on a second. Like, I went back home. What was I doing? I was running up the mountains. I was walking my dog every day. I was out in the forest and the woods, and
Mhm.
just I would just sit there and then just look up, and I
Take it
didn't
all
even
in.
realize what I was doing.
Yeah. And how have you found that then with living in London? Obviously, the nature doesn't compare. Do you find you
Uh,
have to kind of take yourself out
yeah,
sometimes and go and explore other parts of the UK?
um, yeah. We tried. Obviously, during the winter it's very difficult, right? Because
Mhm.
it's the weather's shite here.
Yeah.
But during the summer last year, we tried to get away every like 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
we'd go to somewhere different, me and
Nice.
Ems, just go for a walk or
Yeah.
go to the sea or do
Yeah.
something. Um, I think on sunny days like today, London can be incredible
Mhm.
place to be, right? It's so much fun. There's so much going on, so much multiculturalism. Like it is fabulous, and you have lovely parks and lovely things,
Mhm.
and that does kind of fit the bill.
Yeah.
But it is difficult, just the amount of micro stresses that you have consistently in London
Yeah.
compared to where I grew up.
Yeah, no, exactly. And with that as well, moving to London and going through quite like a life-changing thing, I would say. How do you feel like that's changed your relationships or affected your relationships, or has it at all in terms of not just romantically? Obviously, you mentioned your
Yeah,
amazing girlfriend, but your friends, your family, etc. Like, has it
yeah.
changed at all?
Um, Most of my friends already lived here.
Okay.
So I moved here straight out of uni,
Mhm.
and most of them stayed. So majority of my pals are in the UK.
Mhm.
So it didn't really have any effect on them apart from a positive effect because I got to
Great.
see them more.
Yeah.
And we're a bunch of friends that have literally been in school together since we were 8 years old. Some of them even longer. Some of them were
Mhm.
like 4 years old all the way up. And we're nearly gone past being mates.
Right.
You know, like we're more
Yeah.
like brothers.
Yeah.
Um, and that's obviously been positive. And then the relationships that I've made in the last 12 months have been incredible.
Mhm.
It's been so much fun making those relationships, and that's the beautiful part of London that I've loved so much, and the
Yeah.
thing that I'm gonna miss the most. Like yesterday, we had like a group of people for drinks because we are leaving,
Yeah.
and the majority of the table had 0-0 Heinekens on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of cool, you know,
Yeah.
like people were running the Hackney Half today,
Yeah.
and there's all this going on. I was like, this is a great bunch of people that I've made connection with.
Yeah.
I think now the next move is going to be where I really feel that kind of
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I actually, for myself, the way I am and how bad I am at organising myself, I actually need to organise time for me to actually nurture those relationships and make sure that I'm contacting them and spending time
Yeah.
with them, even
Yeah.
on the phone.
Yeah.
So I'm already thinking ahead of like what I need to do.
Yeah. That's amazing. I was going to ask you that actually. Obviously, you do have quite a big change coming up. You're moving
Yeah.
country. I know that you're leaving your job to do your coaching as well.
Yeah.
How do you, I guess, manage that, those feelings of going through quite a big change? Or do you feel like you manage it quite well because you've done it in the past?
I don't know. I think everything's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now this change is the right move for us as a couple. I'm kind of getting to that age where, you know, you're 28, 29, 30, you're thinking, maybe I should have had this kind of figured out before, you know? And I haven't, but I think I found something that I really want to do and something that I think is going to give me fulfillment and purpose, and is going to allow me to actually work with people and have connection with people and really like give back.
Yeah.
And that's the coaching. And Ems has got like a really good job now, and that's why we're moving to Lisbon, because it's a really good step up for her. I think my biggest like feeling that I have is just I really don't want to lose the people that I really hold dear that I've met in the last 12 months. I think it's really important that I make sure that I put that time aside to reach out and send a text every week and be like, hey, how's your week going? Because I don't even do that when I'm here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I need
but
to
then
make sure
maybe
that
you bump into them or you
Yeah,
see them at a
exactly.
run club or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think you're right. Just having that text or that little bit of communication can make such a difference. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that want to visit Lisbon as well.
yeah, there's that. Yeah, there's already bookings gone in left, right,
Yeah.
centre. I think also I get a good bit of comfort out of leaving London with a group of new friends, because I'm like, well, I've done it before, I can do it again. And I'm moving somewhere, I'm like, okay, well, I made this mistake last time. I actually didn't, you know, for the first 4 or 5 months, I ran on my own rather than going to different run clubs, and maybe I would have met people there and yada, yada, yada. So yeah, I've already kind of like, it was a learning. So now I'm going to take this into the next one.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll get some learnings from that, because I have to do a load of forms around customs that I didn't have to do the last time. And I'm sure I'm going to fuck them up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So for anybody listening who maybe feels like at a bit of a crossroads or a little bit lost and making a change in their life, what advice would you give them to reassure them that it's okay? It's okay to feel like that.
Yeah, I think it is okay. Yeah, it's definitely okay to feel like that. I also think that people really overcomplicate stuff.
Right.
And I think if you wrote everything down on a piece of paper, pros, cons, it's only a difficult decision if the decisions are equal. If the pros weigh out the cons by a huge margin, it's not a difficult decision, and just make it.
Yeah.
I think we really do make things more difficult than they need to be.
Yeah.
And things are quite simple.
Yeah.
If the only thing is financial, and you don't have a mortgage, kids, whatever, and you're not happy, to me personally, that's not a difficult decision.
Yeah. Make a change, because
Just
if you
make the
don't change something, you're going to be stuck where you are. And it's that, like, I guess that pain of staying where you are, is it going to be bigger than that pain of going out and doing something different?
That, though, that mindset shift is probably where people stop.
Right.
That's probably the pain point, is getting to that stage where it's just like, I have to do this now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think yeah, just especially if you used to be happy and now you're not so happy, and that's kind of what you're trying to figure out. If you just write down all the things that you used to do when you were happy and all the things you do now, and if they don't marry up, just go back to what you are doing. So I
Yeah.
did that before,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, well, I was probably in a pretty good space when I was like, 14, 15, 16. And I know I was way different at 24, but what was I doing then, back then? I didn't drink.
Mhm.
I did loads of exercise.
Mhm.
I did like some creative stuff at some stage. Okay, I was pretty happy then.
Yeah.
I can do that stuff now.
Yeah.
I'm just an adult, like figure it out that
Yeah.
way.
No, I think it's so true. I've been trying to do that as well this year and just trying to tap into things that I think brought me a lot of joy when I was younger. And just, yeah, as you say, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but getting those feelings back
Yeah.
of doing something that, yeah, it can be quite simple. Take it back to basics.
You might be 28 years old, but you can still go play outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, it is that.
Yeah, it's so true. I wanted to touch on as well something that I've seen on your Instagram recently, which I've loved, is that you're training for a marathon with your mum. And I think it's just so amazing. So I did part of my training with my dad, but he was on his bike. He wasn't running alongside me. I'm working on that.
Yeah.
I think he will do one day. But how did that come about? Because I think it's so incredible that your mum's doing that.
My mum saw me do the 32 challenge, and
Yeah.
she said, I want to run 21K, so a half marathon. She said, if you could do it for 32 days, I can do it once. So she did it, kind of just went out and did it. Just one. She was like, I
Wow.
can run 10K, I'm just going to go do a half.
Yeah.
So she went and did it. And then she's been running whatever, and I went home recently and I was like, oh, maybe we should do like do a race together. And she was like, yeah, I was thinking about doing a half marathon. I was like, yeah, sure, we can do a half marathon. She was like, all right, okay. So then I signed her up for a full.
So it wasn't really her choice.
No, it wasn't really her choice.
Well, if she's done a half already.
That was my logic.
Yeah.
I was like, you've already done a half just on your own, so why don't you just do a marathon?
Yeah. Yeah. And
So-
training with her, how has that been as well?
I would have loved to been back home and being actually able to run with her more.
Yeah.
But as a client, doesn't miss any sessions, doesn't moan. She did buy shoes that were too small for her that really messed up her feet.
Oh.
But that's her problem. We fixed it now. But as a whole, it's been a joy, and I'm so excited to do it with her.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much fun, just like experiencing a crowd and like her getting to tick something off her bucket list.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my whys for the next like 10 years is to just try and give as much back to her as I possibly can.
Yeah. And do you feel that's because of kind of some of the things in the past where maybe your relationship was a little bit different?
Our relationship's always been the same. I think
Okay.
I was just an arsehole.
Right.
To be completely honest, I was just a prick. Like I was just a surly, aggressive, just little shithead. That made life difficult and made life stressful when it didn't need to be.
Yeah.
So, kind of to make up for that. But then again, she's always thought that I was great. She's always thought I was great.
Yeah.
No matter how much of a shithead I was. So it's just kind of giving back and helping her with stuff like that.
Yeah. I was going to say, she must be so immensely proud of you for everything that you're doing now. And
Yeah.
to be able to do that together and cross that finish line will be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be sick.
So yeah,
buzzing for
keep
it.
us all posted on your stories and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
When
yeah.
is the actual race?
2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
our last day in London is the 28th. Fly back to Ireland, marathon. Fly back to London, get suitcases, go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So on that, with your job and your coaching and your training, how do you find time, or what is your kind of way of balancing everything? Or do you feel like you do?
Balance is bullshit, I think is the line I'm going to use on this one.
Yeah.
You're going to have seasons where you're going to have to put your time into certain aspects of your life. So if I'm training for a marathon or a challenge or something, my time is going to go towards training. If I'm in a season where I'm not really training for anything like that, and maybe I want to focus on like content, or I want to focus on my relationships and spending time with people, I think it's that's balance.
Yeah.
being able to push all your eggs into one basket for a period of time
Mm-hmm.
and then be able to take it out and come back and do different things.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to balance everything all at once is very difficult. Um, but then, in the same breath, if you're just looking to be active and fit and whatever, you can probably do that. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
can probably balance
Yeah.
that sort of thing. It's just you gotta be realistic as to what it is you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
If you're trying to achieve being able to run a 10K, or you're trying to achieve, getting a bit stronger,
Mm-hmm.
then going to the gym 3 times a week and running 2 times a week, that will suffice.
Yeah.
And that's balance.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. But for me personally, it's where I put my energy in at different spots,
Yeah.
depending on where I'm at and
Yeah.
what I'm working towards.
Nice. I like that. And in terms of your content, so I love following your content. I think your script writing, I know you talk about your script writing, I think it's amazing. What kind of led you to start doing that?
Um, I think I want to do more challenges, right?
Yeah.
And the only way I can see it being possible is if I have some sort of a social following that will enable me to get people to sponsor me to do them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I need to be able to give people or businesses exposure to get in return what I'm looking to get
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
I also think there's not enough positive stuff on social media and nearly honest stuff on social media
Yeah.
about like how life really is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to do that.
Yeah.
But my social media is like all over the place. As in, I just post random shit when I want to, whenever I want to, and if I want to. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah.
And it's probably something that I should work on because maybe it would do better, but I don't really care.
Well, I'd say from the outside looking in, it doesn't appear to be like that. Like, I genuinely enjoy following you. I think the message you put out, I love that you're very vulnerable on your social media. I feel like you've opened your heart and you've really let everyone into your story. And I think that will help so many people who, especially young men, I think, that come across and can see that, as we said, you've managed to change your life around and you're still working on that and you're still doing so many things to make it even better. But I think being able to be open is so amazing. So I think, yeah, keep doing
Yeah,
that.
it's been a 4 year journey of kind of doing that, and every time I do it, I get better at actually trying to word what it is I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like you go back and look at some of the stuff that I posted 4 years ago, 3 years ago, it's like so surface level compared to what
Right.
it is now. Probably because I didn't understand it then. I'm
Yeah.
starting to figure it out now.
Yeah.
Script writing is awful though. I'm not good at script writing. It takes me ages.
Yeah. But do you find that it's, in a way, kind of healing to yourself as well to write it out and put it out
Yeah, I think it would actually be better if I wrote them,
there? Okay.
like physically wrote them. I do but my notes is just like just constant on the go, writing
Yeah.
things down.
Yeah.
And I think also I probably need to get better at finishing the script because I get to a certain point and then I get emotional and then I stop
Mm-hmm.
and I don't go back to it
Right.
until I'm ready to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I probably would help if I just carried on and just
Yeah.
like typed out what I was really thinking and
Yeah.
how I really felt.
Yeah.
But it's
But
trying
you
to figure that out.
Yeah, you have to do what feels right for you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of your challenges, and you said that that's part of the reason you have your social. What's next for you? I mentioned in the intro that it was so far, but I feel like there's going to be more.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to do one for suicide in the UK. So
Okay.
6,000 people commit suicide on average in the UK every year.
Mhm.
Obviously depends, but on average that's kind of the number. So I want to run 6,000 kilometers as quick as I possibly can. I'm going to try to do it in the 60-day mark, so
Mhm.
100K a day.
Wow.
That's a lot of running.
Yeah.
I'm aware that might not happen, probably won't happen, but it's not about the 60 days, it's about the 6,000.
Yeah.
So that's my next challenge. I'm hoping to do it in 2025.
Okay.
Training and everything has already started for that.
Mhm.
And I'll be doing it in London in 10 of the different parks around London. So hopefully I'll be able to get loads of people out.
Yeah.
My plan is to do an appeal for people who've been affected by suicide and run with a t-shirt and a picture and a name
Oh.
on my
Yeah.
chest and do each day for a person.
Oh.
So that's kind of like my next challenge that I want to do.
That would be so incredible. Like, honestly, I think what you're doing, as you say, keep it out on social, because I will definitely be coming to one of the parks and running a bit with you if I can, because
Yeah,
I think it's so amazing what you're doing as well.
thank you.
And I know in the past you've dealt with injuries and things as well. And I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask a bit, how did you overcome that? Because with what you do, being a coach and doing all these incredible challenges, I can imagine like it feels like such a setback. But how do you again like mentally overcome that?
So, um, last year I got injured for pretty much the whole year. I think it was like 9, 10 months of the whole year I was injured. And it's at the beginning it was awful. I hated it. It felt shit. It made me feel shit. Um, but after a certain period of time, I was like, this has happened for a reason. My whole personality and how I escaped from everything was through running and through exercise. And if anything, I've made the most amount of growth in my mindset and what I'm trying to do,
Yeah,
and the most understanding of myself in the last 12 months since getting injured.
yeah,
And I think now I've disassociated my exercise from kind of like my escapism all the time to just being, something that I do for fun, but also can be like my kind of meditation on some occasions. But for the most part, it's actually just enjoyment. Um, and yeah, I think when you get injured at the beginning, it's just going to be so hard. It's going to be difficult. But if you just come back too quickly, you're going to be out for longer. That's exactly
yeah,
what I did.
yeah,
And you're just shooting yourself in the foot, and it's probably a reason for it.
yeah,
Like if you get an impact stress fracture, you're doing too much training, you're not doing the right things, you're not getting the right sleep. If you're a woman, like being in a calorie deficit affects your cycle, which affects your bone density, which affects like everything, like all that sort of stuff. I think you just have to accept it and be like, okay, what can I do? Small steps again. What can I do to get back, but stronger than I was before?
yeah,
I think that's the only advice that I could give to people.
yeah,
Just slowly work through it, figure out what it is.
yeah,
And there's loads of other sports that you can do.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
You
No,
don't have. You don't
exactly.
have. Just because were a runner doesn't mean you have to stay a runner. You can go play. I don't know. You can go do cycling or go do swimming or
Yeah,
take up bouldering and do climbing. You can
yeah,
do loads of different things.
yeah. No, I really like that. How you said in that 12 months you almost became like that best version because
Definitely up here in the top, like what you call it, 6 inches. Like I
yeah,
definitely my my mentality and my mindset actually just got so much better.
yeah,
And my mental fitness got so much better
yeah.
from actually becoming unphysically fit.
Yeah, no, I think that's
Weird.
really amazing to hear. And I mean, I've not done anything like you have, but I have trained for marathons before. And I think when you become so like fixated on something, it becomes your whole life, and
Yeah,
it's it's all you know. And I think that's so important, as you say, to kind of be able to separate that. And it's something that brings you enjoyment, but it's not everything. Like
yeah,
there's still other things that you can bring you joy and happiness and
yeah,
help your brain and like all these other things that you can do in life. It's not just
yeah,
that one. If you put all of your, I guess, happiness into one pot, if that's then taken away, you're
yeah,
kind of left trying to pick up the pieces.
yeah,
I think it's about knowing that it's not just all focused on one thing. So I really like that.
yeah. Also, just go for a walk without your phone
Yeah.
in a park.
Yeah.
Do just as good a
Just
job
get
as going
outside.
for a run,
Yeah.
for
No,
sure. Like,
it will. So in terms of all of that, looking back, how do you feel now? Like, how's your outlook changed?
uh, I'm probably in the best, mm, happiness wise. I'm probably in the best place that I've ever been. Right,
Hmm.
while acutely being more aware than ever of how fucked up I am from the grief of losing so many people. It's a weird place to be.
Yeah.
To be like, I am the happiest I've ever been, but also there's occasions where I am running on a treadmill in a gym and I just start bawling, crying, or I go for a walk and I start bawling, crying, or I have a panic attack going into a social situation and all these different things. Um, but on the whole, I'm sweet, like I'm
Mhm.
good. And I think it's just because I'm kind of at the stage where I'm ready to peel that next layer of the onion back.
Yeah.
And I use this analogy a lot, which is that, like, you have an onion and you pull back one layer and it makes you cry. And then you leave it in the fridge for like a day or so. And you
Mhm.
pull back another layer and that layer makes you cry. And you're like constantly
Mhm.
going through the layers. And I think I'm really at a stage where I'm in a really strong relationship. I have a really good relationship now with exercise, which I didn't have because I
Mhm.
used to do it from a place of hate. I now do it from a place of love and
Yeah.
enjoyment. Um, I'm going into a new chapter of my life that scares the shit out of me, but it's something that I'm really passionate about and I want to do.
Mhm.
And I'm also dealing with this grief that I kind of suffered 20 years ago, but I probably wasn't able to deal with it during that last 20-year
Yeah.
period. And now I actually am able to like sit in the mud and feel the feelings that I felt back then and
Mhm.
try to understand them and go to therapy and discuss them without like just curling up into a ball and not
Mhm.
wanting to talk.
Yeah. I think that's really amazing. I think grief is something that I think you carry with you for a long time, if not forever.
Yeah,
So I think it's really amazing that you're open and sharing that actually,
yeah,
because I think sometimes it can be uh, like people think that maybe time is a healer, and I think time can be very helpful, but
yeah.
that's not to say that you went through this 20 years ago, so you shouldn't still be grieving or feeling these feelings. And I
I
think that's really important to put out there and for people to know that.
yeah, I think honestly, I wrote in a script recently. It feels as if I have these scars all
Yeah,
over me, and I've had them bandaged up for years, thinking that they were healing,
yeah,
and I've taken the bandages off, and they're still as raw as they ever were.
yeah,
Uh, and that's because I haven't dealt with them. And I'm literally only starting to deal with them now, and that's how raw they really are.
yeah,
They're that raw as if I was back then, and that's
yeah,
so. And I was actually really annoyed at myself at the beginning, like, how the fuck do I feel so shit about this
hmm,
situation still? And I was like, yeah, because you haven't done anything about it.
yeah. It's
Like,
still there.
it's still there. So yeah, it's a really interesting place to be, and I only really realized in the last year that it was like grief, and that it was the grief of losing those people. Bear in mind, two of those people are still alive, but I still had to grieve these people that were still alive. I still
Yeah,
had to see my stepdad every single day. I
hmm,
still had to know that my dad was living in a different country with his
yeah,
other family after up and leaving, um, and that's really difficult.
hmm,
And it's only my idea of not feeling good enough and not feeling um like not feeling good enough and not having self-worth came from grief nearly, and it
yeah.
was the grief of losing people, and I've only kind of figured that out in the last since January really.
Yeah, no, I think that's really powerful. And when you are experiencing this, you said like sometimes you go for a walk and you kind of feel those feelings. Do you just allow yourself to feel it? Is that part of your like
Yeah,
healing process,
I did
or
it
will
I
you
did a
then?
I did a 40-minute run on a treadmill in a gym, and I cried for 20 minutes of it.
Yeah, I love that though. I think it's so important because I'm learning myself. If you don't let it out, like it is still just in there. And
Yeah,
as you say, like you've kind of taken the bandage off these scars, and if you're on that treadmill and you just put that plaster back on, it's still not going to get any better.
yeah,
It's all part of the process and the journey.
yeah.
Yes.
It's an interesting thing though to be really happy day to day and then just have these moments where it's just like pure emotion and just feelings that just don't fit with the day that you're having nearly.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
It's definitely a roller coaster.
it's definitely a roller coaster, but it's a pretty good one as
Yeah.
well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like one of those shit roller coasters.
Yeah. No, exactly. And with all of that, is your life now where you thought it ever would be?
If you had said to me 10 years ago, um, that I would be where I am now, I would have said no chance, because 10 years ago I wasn't even sure if I'd be here. But also I had this idea that I'd, have a flash motor, and I'd be making loads of dough, and that's what I would value, and
Yeah.
I don't really value any of that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting. I genuinely don't think I would be here. I didn't. I think 10 years ago I wouldn't have thought I would be here. I think 5 years I wouldn't have thought I'd
Yeah.
be here.
No, I think that's really powerful to say, and I think that takes it back to that challenge you want to do and to raise that awareness. So I think it's really amazing that you want to do that and that you have done that and you've managed to put your life into the position that it's in now.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Like financial
sharing.
freedom, not a chance anytime soon.
Yeah.
Being able to buy a house, no chance. Happiness through the roof.
Yeah. And that's what
Time,
life's about, right?
yeah, time to be able to spend with people that I actually enjoy being around.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just, as you said before, like having that confidence in yourself that you know what you want and being happy
Yeah.
with that, because I think that's amazing. Like there's so much pressure sometimes, I think, to have the family, the kids, the house, all of these things, especially as you do get a bit older, but actually that might not be your happiness and that might not be what is right for you. And
Yeah.
what you've just said there is amazing. Like your happiness is through the roof. I think that's what everybody wants to be, right? We all
Yeah.
strive for that.
Yeah.
So.
I know what fills my cup. I think if you can figure out what fills your cup, sweet, you're pretty good. You're in a good spot. Like,
no, completely. I think it's so true. Like, and again with this podcast, that's what I wanted to kind of bring awareness to, right? Like normalizing your 20s, that just because society says you should be doing XYZ, it doesn't mean that you have to be, or that you have to in a certain time frame or ever.
Yeah, I wonder. I do think about that slightly. It's like society says, where,
Yeah.
who says?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I do. I think about that a lot.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because it's spoken about and it still feels like the cycle. Maybe things like this hopefully will break that down a bit.
Yeah.
To show different stories and different people that are genuinely happy with their lives and they're doing what they want to do.
Yeah, I always think about that as well, about like school and stuff like that. Nobody asks you. Everybody asks you what you're going to be when you're in school. What are you going to be? I'm going to be a footballer. I'm going to be a doctor. Never ask you what problem you're going to solve.
No. Or how you want to feel.
Or how you want to feel. Or what you get enjoyment out of.
Yeah.
I'm trying to solve a problem of getting people physically and mentally fit. That's a problem. I want to solve it.
Yeah.
That gives me purpose.
Yeah.
Does that, like, I don't have to be a coach, like I could just be that person that does that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, I love that. And my final question that I want to ask all of my guests, if you could go back to the beginning of your 20s, knowing everything that's happened, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give yourself? If there would be.
Yeah. Maybe don't spend so much money on drugs would be one of them. I'd be in a much better position than that. But I think I wouldn't change anything about what's gone on in my life.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be the person that I am right now. So I think the one piece of advice would be just live it and experience it, because it's going to turn you into the person that you're going to become. Yeah. And that person you should be proud of.
I love that. I think that's such a great thing to say.
Yeah.
So if people want to find you and follow your journey, or inquire about your coaching, where can people find you?
_ Michael Burton is my Instagram. Same on TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn, Michael Burton. But yeah, just send me a DM.
Yeah.
I try to respond to as many DMs as possible. Yeah. If you're interested in coaching, there's a contact form there. So just reach out, ask questions. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I really look forward to seeing what's coming up next for you, Michael.
Thank you so much. I
know it will be amazing. And yeah, I'm going to carry on following your journey and all of your challenges and supporting you along the way. So I'm excited to see it come in. And thank you so much for coming on there.
No, thank you so much, Becca, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Good. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
Thank
very much so.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please continue to like, subscribe, share, and follow us on socials. See you next week for another episode.